Hey guys, welcome again to my channel AWS with Vim. In this quick bite video, we'll learn how we can restrict our S3 bucket traffic. So that means the traffic which is going to our S3 bucket should only go via the private network, which means it should only traverse via VPC network using AWS private network and not over the public network. Now, before we dive into the implementation part, let's just quickly understand why do we actually need to do this. So let's say you might come across a use case or a scenario where your application needs to access S3 bucket and your application is sitting in a protected subnet which does not even have a NAT gateway. So in that case, the only option for you is to use a service called VPC endpoint, which lets you access S3 buckets over the private network even without internet gateway or NAT gateway. All right, so let's dig into the implementation part now. So here I am within my AWS console where I have my EC2 console and S3 console open in a new tab. So first I'll just start with launching an EC2 instance. So I'll just start with Amazon Linux 2 AMI. That will do for me. I'll stick with T2 Micro. Under VPC, I'll select the demo VPC which I created for this lab. I'll select any one of my public subnet. Under IAM role, I'll select an SSM role so that I can get shell access or remote access or terminal access of my EC2 machine even without opening port 22. That's all, no need to change anything. Next, add storage. I'll leave the storage to default. Under tags, I'll just name my EC2 machine as S3 demo. I'll create a new security group, which I'll name it, let's say S3 demo SG security group for S3 demo, where I'll just have an HTTP port open at bare minimum, and I'll launch my EC2 instance without a key pair because I already have attached a SSM instance role. Now, while my EC2 instance is being created, I'll switch to my S3 tab and I'll create a new bucket for this. So I'll just name my bucket AWS with Vim demo. Make sure you select the same region where you have created your VPC and EC2 instance and click on the create button. All right, so my S3 bucket has been created. Now I'll set a S3 bucket policy which will restrict the access of this S3 bucket only via the private network. But before restricting it to the private network, I'll just create a bucket policy which will allow access even over the public internet. Okay, so I'll use this policy generator to just quickly generate an S3 policy for me. And the type of policy, I'll select S3 bucket policy. For principal, I'll provide star. I'll select all actions. And for the resource name, I'll just switch back to my S3 tab. I'll copy the ARN of my S3 bucket and I'll paste it here. And I'll add a statement. I'll generate the policy. I'll copy it and I'll paste it here. So basically, as of now, this bucket policy will allow all S3 actions from anywhere. Okay, so I just need to update the resource. So I'll make this resource as a list and I need to add one more resource here. So the first resource allows access to my bucket, whereas the second resource will allow access to all my objects within the bucket. And I'll save it. Okay, so it has given me error because I haven't unblocked myself so that I can make my bucket public. So to do that, I'll click on this block public access, but before you click on that, make sure you just copy your S3 policy so that you don't have to modify or write it again. So click on block public access. I'll click on edit button on the right side. I'll uncheck the box. I'll save it and I'll confirm the same. Now I have unblocked myself so that I can make my bucket and the objects accessible publicly. I'll paste the same policy here and I'll save it this time. So you see, you will receive this warning which says that this bucket has public access. Don't worry, this public access will be there only for few minutes until we set up our VPC endpoint. So let's just quickly connect to our EC2 instance. I'll just zoom in so the text is visible clear. I'll switch to my admin user, which is EC2 user. And now I'll just try to access the bucket using my AWS CLI tool, which is already installed in Amazon Linux too. So I'll type AWS S3 ls followed by my bucket name, which is AWS with Vim demo. And I can see that I didn't receive any error, but there wasn't any output because I don't have any files stored within my demo bucket. I'll just upload a file quickly. So I'll just upload an AWS logo. I'll upload it and I'll switch back to my SSM tab and I'll repeat the same command, and this time you will see that I received an output of my AWS logo file which I just uploaded. Now our S3 bucket is publicly accessible. Anyone can access it. Okay, let's now restrict this access over the private network only via VPC. So I'll open the VPC service. I'll open it in a new tab. I'll click on endpoints from the left panel. I'll create a new endpoint. Under service name filter box, I'll type S3 and hit enter. I'll select my S3 service as endpoint. Under VPC, I'll select my demo VPC which I created. I'll select both the route tables to which my subnets are associated. So to this I have public and to this I have private. For now I'll select all. If you want to even select the default one, and if you have any subnets associated, you can even select the third one. But for now I'll just select the first two which has my subnets associated. And I'll scroll down and click on create endpoint. Now once the endpoint has been created, the route table entries will be populated by AWS itself. So let's just verify if our route tables has been populated. So I'll click on route tables in the left panel. I'll select any one of my route table which has my subnets associated. I'll click on route. So I see that there are no entries here. Now sometimes it can take few minutes. So I'll just pause my video until the entries are populated. All right, so my route tables are now updated with an S3 entry, which is pointing to my VPC endpoint. For me, it took around 2 to 3 minutes. Now, once the entry has been pointing, I'll just copy this VPC endpoint because we need to even update our bucket policy. So once I've copied, you can either copy it from the route table or you can go to endpoint and copy the VPC endpoint from here. Then I'll switch back to my S3 console. I'll go to the permissions tab. I'll click on bucket policy. And now I need to add a condition here. CONDI condition. Oops. Condition. String equals AWS colon source VPCE and the VPC endpoint. So I've done this. I'll click on my save button and you will see that that public warning has now been removed. So now my bucket is no more public. Only if the traffic is coming via my VPC endpoint, then this S3 bucket will be accessible. So I'll switch back to my systems manager console. I'll again zoom in and I'll again do an AWS S3 ls. And there we go. Now you might be thinking that even when the file or the bucket was public, I was able to access, and after adding the VPC endpoint, I'm still able to access. So whether I am actually accessing it via VPC endpoint or not. So let's just confirm that. So what I'll do is I'll switch back to my VPC tab. So now what I'll be doing is I'll just delete this endpoint. So now I don't have a VPC endpoint, but the condition still stays within my S3 bucket policy. I'll switch back to route table to confirm that entry has been removed. And yes, it has been. Now I'll again switch back to Systems Manager and I'll try to access it. And there we go. So we received an access denied, which means the S3 policy is actually working, is in place, and is only allowing connections from the VPC endpoint or only from within the VPC network. Great. So that's all within this demo. As always, make sure you delete all the resources which you created in this lab so that you don't incur any cost. Great. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you find this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss out on future videos.